This episode is brought to you by Iams Pet Food. When you choose Iams dry dog or cat food, you can see a difference in your pet with your own eyes. Healthy energy in 5 days, healthy digestion in 10 days, and healthy skin and coat in just 25 days. Satisfaction for you and them. Guaranteed or your money back. Feed Iams dry dog or cat food and see a visible difference. Visit iams.com/difference to learn more.
The new Apple Watch Series 10 is here. It has the biggest display ever. It's also the thinnest Apple Watch ever, making it even more comfortable on your wrist. And it's the fastest charging Apple Watch, getting you 8 hours of charge in just 15 minutes. Introducing the all-new Apple Watch Series 10, now available for the first time in glossy jet black aluminum. Compared to previous generation, iPhone XS or later required. Charge time and actual results will vary.
Want to shop Walmart Black Friday deals first? Walmart Plus members get early access to our hottest deals. Join now and get 50% off a 1-year annual membership. Shop Black Friday deals first with Walmart Plus. See terms at walmartplus.com.
If Chelsea were behaving like that, the media would paint it and say, well, they're just being street smart, they're just being savvy. When Forest try those tactics, you know, we're football terrorists.
This is 1865, the Nottingham Forest podcast, and like a Shetland pony, I'm a little hoarse. If you're expecting one of our Forest Ramble discussions, you're in the right place. But now we're doing something that is bigger and better. Welcome to Football Terrorists.
Football Terrorists.
So, I'm your host, Rich Ferraro, and I'm joined by this guy, the Maradona Of The Midlands.
Hi.
And it's already, unbelievably, our 40th podcast of this season since August. So do join us and our panel for The Wheel of Misfortune, The Price is Ian Wright, The 60-Second Shuffle, and Tricky Tree, Tracks of My Tears. If all that sounds a bit different, then don't fear, as we'll still be joined by some familiar voices, and Jeremy will pop in for the 1865 sketch. And that's all coming up in this episode of 1865 Football Terrorists.
1865
Football Terrorists.
Now, let's welcome our guests for this podcast. Contestant number 1, Baz. What's been your moment of the season so far?
As an old gimmer, I have to say beating Liverpool, because I'm old enough to remember when they used to win everything, and there's always something special about it.
Okay, I suspect that might be a popular answer. Let's go to you, Tom Newton.
Morning. Same as Baz, really. The win at Liverpool, waited a long time for that, and so it came this season. So that's my moment of the season so far.
George Edwards, hello.
Yeah, very similar to the guys. The Callum Hudson-Odoi goal at that moment. Forest had done so well throughout the game, but there was always a sense of Liverpool would find a way. But Forest actually found a way. And yeah, it was special to be a part of that moment.
Okay, and before I come to you, Maradona Of The Midlands, just to let you know that I put it out on Twitter in the last throes of X and asked people, what has been your Forest moment of the season so far? So Paul said the Hudson-Odoi winner and the final whistle at Anfield. Damon said Callum's win at Anfield. Neil said win at Anfield. And then we also had a couple of other options. So we had Luke saying Leicester away was the best away day since Wembley. And Gareth said Murillo's goal. Maradona Of The Midlands, are you going to choose any of them, or are you going to go for something different?
No, I'm going to slightly different. I'm going to say Ola Aina's goal against West Ham. It's just a very good goal, first and foremost. It capped off a fine performance, and it just allowed us to relax and enjoy a match at home in a way we haven't really been able to do since promotion. It was sort of knowing we'd already won and we're enjoying ourselves and playing good football and going to score a few more goals maybe. It was just like a return to the halcyon days of our youth where we'd regularly smash teams.
And Baz, I don't know if you saw this, but A couple of things, bearing in mind that we're the right age to remember the early days of Alan Partridge on the day-to-day, and it was very much one of those striker moments. But a couple of other things that I'd like to mention. Number one is that Ola, in his post-match interview, basically said, I was knackered, so hitting it was the easiest option. And then the second thing is that during that interview, he was drinking from a carton of Ribena. So any comments on that?
He's got a left foot like a traction engine.
Absolutely. Okay, so it's time for today's first feature, and it's over to you, Maradona of the Midlands.
Hello, everyone. I'm going to play now a new game here on 1865 football terrorist called the Wheel of Misfortune. I'm going to spin the wheel, and it will bring up a topic. And we will then give our panelists 30 seconds to share their views, and points will be awarded for the best responses. At the end of today's show, the panelists with the most points will get to choose a song of their choice as our closing music. So I think we shall begin with Young George.
Okay, let's spin that wheel. Okay, apparently that's the wheel having spun. And the topic that's come up for you, George, is James Ward-Prowse. So your 30 seconds start now.
James Ward-Prowse signed excited on loan from Premier League rivals West Ham, looking just like the experienced midfielder Forest desired, with Premier League know-how and wicked set-piece delivery. Fast forward 2 months from his impressive debut at Anfield, and Ward-Prowse can barely get onto the pitch. Anthony Elanga deserves enormous credit, with stats suggesting his delivery has been up there with the most threatening in Europe. The Chelsea red card has proved fatal for the midfielder, with his spot being won by Dominguez and increasingly looking in jeopardy with Danilo and Sangare on the horizon. And with that, it wouldn't be a surprise to see him depart in January. The fact Forest can afford to let a player of his quality leave shows the enormous steps taken by this squad and this manager.
Wow, thank you, George. It's almost as if you knew that topic was going to come up. It's very well prepared there. Maradona, who's coming up next on the Wheel of Misfortune?
Oh, let's go for Big Bad Baz.
Okay, Baz, your 30 seconds on. Let's see who comes up. It's Big Willy Bolly, and your 30 seconds start now.
So at the start of this season, the betting odds had us down as relegation favourites, and that really surprised me because I was quietly optimistic for the season ahead. And my optimism was because of Willy Bolly. Now, last season was absolutely crazy. We had the issues with referees, we had Mr. Marinakis in the tunnel, we had Twitter spats, we had things with set pieces. But then Big Willy returned from injury at the end of the season, and we started to look just a little bit more solid. We could see Murillo improve from having that sort of big defender alongside him. So pre-Milenkovic, I'd like to thank Big Willy for giving me a bit of hope for the future.
Oh, wow. Beautiful. Beautiful there. Beautiful. Thank you very much. And then last but not least, I guess, Maradona, it must be over to Tom, mustn't it?
Oh, I think it's tricky, Tom.
Okie doke. So let's spin the wheel and see which topic comes up. And Tom's topic is Jota Silva. So your 30 seconds start now.
Oh, we love our Portuguese prince, don't we? I mean, we love it. We haven't had a S house since Samba, and every time he comes on the pitch, he's our our own Jack Grealish. The goal what he scored against Newcastle, you can't beat a goal what doesn't hit the back of the net. And sometimes we wish he has more starts, but he's just a really infectious character, and we absolutely love him for him.
Oh. And even with 5 seconds to go, that was Tom talking about Jota Silva.
And I didn't rehearse that.
Well,
that was just off the tongue, that was.
Yeah, because obviously no one knew which topics were coming up before the show.
Infectious characters. It's funny Tom said that, because I always think he needs a good wash and shave. That's Jota, that is, not Tom. You know, a good shave and a wash.
I get by.
Yeah, you get by.
I don't need to impress anybody, me, these days.
Are you confusing infectious with contagious?
COVID was long gone.
Never. I think if Cloughie was around, he'd maybe look at a slightly different character, young Jota, and maybe even be even better. Who knows?
Well, that's harsh and frankly a little bit unfair. But there you go. Okie doke. And then we have a bonus topic. So everyone is going to get 30 seconds on the bonus topic. Let's see what comes up. Well, who'd have thought it? It's David Coote. Maradona, who do you want to go to first?
Ooh, let's go in reverse order this time. Let's go to Tom.
Okay, Tom, your 30 seconds on David Coote start now.
What is the guy doing? Doing a video with somebody who says he's a friend. He's opening an absolute can of worms. How far does it go back? And basically, everybody's going to question the integrity of every single ref up and down the country. And Powered Webb has got a huge mess on his hands, and more questions are going to be asked in the next coming weeks and months.
You're very good at doing this before the end of 30 seconds. Okie doke. Let's move on. So, who's going to go next, Mr. Maradona?
Let's go for Baz then.
Okay, your 30 seconds on David Coote start now.
I know I'm on really, really dangerous ground with this, what with Nuno getting punished left, right and centre, but I'm all in favour of David Coote having a go at Jurgen Klopp. I remember reading an unnamed official at the German FA who said that Klopp would never, ever be considered for Germany manager because he was an arsehole, and the referees know it. So fair play to David Coote. He may have been coked off his head, but he simply said what everyone knows.
and once again,
I wasn't expecting arsehole at this time in the morning.
no one expects an arsehole at this time in the morning.
Also, in German, it's Arschloch, which is a great word.
Would you also like to share with our listeners, Baz, what Bastian Schweinsteiger's surname means?
It's pig sticker, I think.
Yes. Well, the thing that we're finding is everyone's getting so excited by this topic they don't even need the full 30 seconds. So let's see, last but not least, if George has anything to add to that. Your 30 seconds start now.
Well, I firstly think that the media barrage needs to stop because there should have been lessons learned from things like Caroline Flack. But the premise of what he said is absolutely spot on. Klopp was a bully. He got exactly what he wanted. You think back to Paul Tierney and that incident, he bullied Paul Tierney time and time again. So he shouldn't have allowed to be on video. He shouldn't have done and said what he said. But the premise of the point is spot on. And even with hating people, everybody hates people that hate at work, and you still find a way to work. So he's well within his rights to have those views, just not express it the way they did.
You are very good at doing things in 30 seconds there. So a couple of things. Maradona of the Midlands, you've been very vocal about how no matter how Forest have felt about the refereeing incidents, that they have overstepped the line in the past. So does the David Coote thing make any odds to you in terms of how you view the whole situation with Pogmol and the relationship between the clubs and the refs?
Yeah, in the sense that it's I think it proves my point or backs up my point that they're incompetent rather than being in any way corrupt or anything. I think it's just incompetence to say those sort of things on camera first and foremost. As much as he might think him, and all referees are humans. They're going if you've got somebody shouting in your face for 90 minutes, you're not going to think they're the greatest person. So that's natural, but you don't say it on video and let somebody put it out on the world. And then the whole second allegation thing as well. If you're a professional referee, you shouldn't be anywhere near that sort of situation, which again points to
Are you talking about being filmed? Are you talking about having a bit of sniff?
Yes, the sniffing, because that's going to affect your performance, and then that can lead to further incompetence. So,
I mean, before I knew about him apparently hoovering up a line, I have to say I watched that video and I thought he's off his tits. So we've had tits and arsehole already, so it's that kind of show apparently. Okay, so after the first game, let's award some points, and I think I'm going to give, well, there's only one winner from that one, and with apologies to the other contestants, the points go to Baz on that one.
Yay!
Okay, Okay, so it's time for our next feature. The Price is Ian Wright.
1865.
Terrorists.
And Maradona the Midlands, it's over to you once again.
Well, thank you very much. I'm very, very excited about this. This is where we take the best of Bruce Forsyth and combine it with the best and worst of Nottingham Forest. I'm going to name a Forest player, past or present, and ask the panel how much he cost in transfer fees. It's going to be the initial transfer fee, not including any add-ons, and I've taken all my data from Wikipedia. So it's a rock solid source. It can be no bone of contention. Nobody can complain that I've got anything wrong. All three are from Wikipedia. So if there are any errors, it should hopefully be averaged out. We'll then do this for another two players and then a contestant who is closer to the total value of those three combined transfer fees will get the points at the end of the game.
I hope you've got your pen and paper handy, lads.
No, they haven't.
They're all looking a bit nervous here. So, Maradona, I think that as Baz won the last round, we should start with him as our first person. But who is the first player?
Okay. The first player is Neil Shipperley. That's Neil Shipperley.
Do you want me to say it out loud?
Yes, please.
Yeah,
You have
I
to say
reckon.
it out loud, otherwise we don't know if you're cheating.
And also, this
£1,000,000.
is a podcast.
Well, no, I didn't know if it was like write it down and then present them the answers afterward.
That would be beautiful podcasting.
Well, I'd say £1,000,000 for him.
£1 million.
$1 million.
Next, shall we go to young George? George, I know you've probably never heard of Neil Shipperley, but
Correct.
how much did he cost when he joined Nottingham Forest?
I've heard the name, but I couldn't tell you what era. So I would say 1.25 million.
1.25 million. Okay, not bad. And then, finally, Tom, what is your guess for Neil Shipperley? Also, I should say, I've made a rule here. We're not allowing anybody to say the exact same amount as the other guesses. So it's got to be at least £10,000 out of away from the previous guesses. So, Tom, what is your guess for Neil Shipperley?
1.5 million.
0.5 million.
We've got a ballpark figure going on there, haven't we, Maradona?
We have. Okay, so that's round one done with Neil Shipperley. I'll reveal the correct answer at the end of the game. I've just realised also I'm going to have to do some maths in this as well, which I'm not particularly keen on. I got a D at A-level maths, so it's haunted me ever since. So doing it live on air is going to be a challenge, but never mind. Let's carry on. And our next player is Brit Assombalonga. That's Brit Assombalonga. This time, throw to George first.
I have thankfully heard of Footer Sambalonga. We sold him for 15. I'm going to say 7.5.
7.5. Okay. And then next in the sequence is Tom.
I am going to go 8 million.
8 million. Okay. And finally, Basington.
I'll have a British Sambalonga for £5 million, please, Carol.
£5 million. Not bad, not bad. Okay. That concludes round two. Our final round now is a Portuguese prince himself. The original Portuguese prince. João Carvalho!
Oh, João Carvalho.
The dreamy look on your face.
Tom, tell me, how much did Nottingham Forest FC pay to Benfica as an initial transfer fee for João Carvalho?
13 million quid.
13 million squid. Okay. Next, it is young Baz.
13.3.
13.3. Okay. And finally, George.
I also wrote 13, so I'm going to go as close as I'm allowed to 13, please.
Sorry, how much?
However close I'm allowed to go to 13.
So you can have
Okay.
either 12.9 or 13.1.
I have 13.1.
13.1. Okay, that concludes it. So I'm going to have to add these up now.
So let's just have some light music in the meantime.
Okay, 1 sec. Okay. So
beautifully timed. This is a dream.
So the correct figures, as I have deemed them from Wikipedia. No, I have no arguments from you, young Tom. They are Neil Shipley, £1.5 million. Closest there was Tom, who had a
Yay!
Oh, I wasn't expecting that. Had a spot on, £1.5 million. The next player was Britt Assombalonga, who cost an initial £5 million from Peterborough. And again, we have another spot on answer, this time from Baz.
Yay!
The final player was João Carvalho. And everybody was very close to that correct figure there of £13.2 million. We paid how much? And both Baz and George were £100,000 out there. Baz is going up just over on 13.3, George going just under on 13.1. So that all means that the winner is, with a combined error of only £400,000 out from the total true figure of 19.7 million, our inaugural winner of The Price is Ian Wright. With an answer of £19.3 million, Baz!
Yeah.
So the points go to Baz once again. And let's just see, there's still time for everyone to pull things back. So thank you very much, Maradona of the Midlands. Still to come, we've got the 60-second shuffle and Tricky Tree Tracks of My Tears, which is easy for you to say. But first, it is time for this.
The 1865 Sketch by Jeremy Davis. It's hard to say which result triggered a more visceral reaction of shock and horror amongst certain sections of the commentariat. The re-election as US President of Donald J. Trump, or the Ballon d'Or victory of Manchester City and Spain's defensive midfielder Rodri. Like the journalist, author and Sunderland fan Jonathan Wilson, who wrote an enthusiastic article in The Guardian celebrating the fact that the defensive midfield position is at last getting the recognition it deserves, we like a holding midfielder here at 1865. And it's nice to have something in common with the Sunderland fan other than a high regard for Andy Reid, mixed feelings about Jack Colback, and an emerging complex about Newcastle United. For all Real Madrid's protests, the award is usually decided by international affairs in a World Cup or Euros year, so no matter the achievements of Vinny Jr., although the nickname puts me in mind at least of a henchman in a New York City gangster movie, had Spain's midfield maestro not walked away with the award, it would have been the worst case of cheating on a man called Rodri since Ryan Giggs walked away with his brother's wife. As I said, the 1865 team holds holding midfielders in high esteem, even if the position has changed somewhat over the years. The older members of the pod grew up with the box-to-box breed of tough-tackling, usually hard-drinking, and occasional worldly scoring types like Archie Gemmell, Roy Keane and David Phillips, whereas these days the role is more associated with being an excellent reader of the game, a master of the tactical foul that doesn't get punished, and the ability to bring a bit of discipline to the pitch. James Ward-Prowse's red card against Chelsea would suggest that when it comes to the slide tactical foul, we've still got a bit to learn, before we get to the level of another former Man City midfielder, Fernandinho, when it comes to getting away with one. But then, Manchester City getting away with things is a sore point amongst Forest fans, still smarting from last season's points deduction. On the subject of discipline, though, you'd have to say that there's room for improvement on and off the City ground pitch. Indeed, we've probably shown levels of indiscipline that would have had Donald J. Trump supporters and the Daily Telegraph calling for the return of the cane, and I'm not talking about Harry. The fact that the coaching team seem to have received more cards than the players might seem heartwarming in the run-up to Christmas, but it does suggest that standards of discipline come from the top, as anyone who served in Boris Johnson's government will tell you. Which brings us to the big guy himself, Mr. Marinakis. Now, I'm not a cigar smoker, so I don't know if a cigar-chomping habit compels you to spit, but his protest against his punishment did seem to me to constitute the least plausible defence since Sheffield United beat Swindon's record for top-flight goals conceded last season. I'm always a little nervous come international break time. There always seems to be one Premier League club that loses their best player for the rest of the season, usually due to an injury picked up in a training session. I'm still convinced that if Taiwo hadn't been crocked on international duty early last season, Steve Cooper would still be Forest manager. With Morgan, Murillo and Milenkovic among the key Forest men on international duty this weekend, the only table I'm concerned about is the treatment table. If those three can avoid injury whilst away on national service, their respective national team coaches will be near the top of my Christmas card list.
Want to shop Walmart Black Friday deals first? Walmart Plus members get early access to our hottest deals. Join now and get 50% off a 1-year annual membership. Shop Black Friday deals first with Walmart Plus. See terms at walmartplus.com.
1865.
Terrorists.
This is 1865. Take it to a podcast, blood partners, but social network and stand up. You stand up to protect your team on match days. You can gain rewards such as food, booze, and merch. You can stay in touch with fellow Reds fans. Use golden ticket code and D6er, and you can skip the waiting list. Find the link at 1865 football, and that's where you can follow us on Threads, Insta, TikTok, Twitter, and more.
Welcome back to 1865, the Nottingham Forest podcast with Rich Ferraro and me, the Maradona of the Midlands. And thanks to Jeremy for his sketch. Just as a reminder, you can skip the waiting list for exclusive access to FanHub by using the code 186-ERG. That's 186-ERG. You can download the app by visiting us at 1865.football. Now let's throw back to Rich for a recap of the current scores.
Okay, thank you very much, Maradona. So I've been diligently keeping the score in the background while you've been hosting these games, and I'm very happy to report that currently in third place with 6 points, it is Tom. In second place with 9 points, it is George. And in first place with 20 points, it is Baz.
Yeah, team.
Experience certainly seems to be playing a part in this game.
Oh, gamer again.
But there's still all to play for, isn't there, Maradona?
You sure? There's all to play for since the scores are arbitrary and they're not based on any sort of method at all. So no,
don't give away our secrets.
I don't. Thanks for that, Rick. Now it's time for our panelists to choose a Forest-related topic and give us a lowdown in the 60-second shuffle. We are going to hear each of our panelists give us a topic, and Rich will choose the one he wants to hear.
So, who shall we go for first, Maradona?
Oh, it's just all these choices. I don't like making choices. Let's go for George this time. I don't know. Let's go for George.
Okay, so George, you have 1 minute on your topic, which starts now.
So this is why Chris Wood is in line for a Ballon d'Or nomination next year. Well, 2 years ago, Forest fans were in abject despair that Forest had to pay £15 million for a striker who looked lonely, fretless and frankly pretty poor. But fast forward to 2024 and that same man has spritefully spearheaded Forest attack to joint third in the league with a catalogue of fantastic finishes and the epitome of a Barclaysman. But surely not enough for a Ballon d'Or. Well, look at Jamie Vardy, 2015-16, Leicester won the league. Vardy's not Brazilian and he was without a classic route to the top, just like Chris Wood. With his 8 goals at this stage this season, just 3 short of Vardy's total in 2015, and Wood has a higher goal tally at top of the country at this point. He also sits in pole position for the Golden Boot Award minus Erling Haaland, a man who should be expelled from the award given the inhuman nature of himself and his club. The only thing would Malak is a title unless Forest go on a wild FA Cup spree, which let's all hope happens. But Vardy finished 8th in 2016's Ballon d'Or with a total of 24 goals in the league, with Wood currently projected to finish on 26. And whether Forest finish 3rd or 13th, it'll be hard to ignore the New Zealanders' efforts if his electric form continues, especially with the lack of a global superstar that we've become so accustomed to with Messi or Ronaldo at the peak of their powers.
Beautiful. Okay, thank you very much there, George. Maradona, who shall we go to next? Bearing in mind that Baz hasn't really done much homework on this yet.
Okay. Can you imagine how annoyed Real Madrid would be if he actually won the Ballon d'Or? They're just
That would be amazing. They'll probably boycott it.
Yeah.
Or boycott football, full stop.
Anyway, let's go over to Tom.
Okay, your minute starts now.
So, as I'm one of the lucky stars who can get to majority of the away games these days, my best 5 away grounds, then the worst away ground. So the best away grounds, Villa Park, absolute traditional English football stadium in this country. Second one, Goodison Park, when they lose that in the next year or so, or this season, isn't it? Absolutely uses old school football. My next one is Newcastle St James's Park. It's like a cathedral on the hill, really nice football ground. Then the other 2 just old school football grounds in London, Palace and Fulham. My worst ones are, or the 2 touristy ones are Stamford Bridge and Man U's Old Trafford. And then the other one, the other 3 is Brighton. It's just in the middle of nowhere, no facilities hardly around it. Brentford's just, it looks like they've done it on a dinner break at work. West Ham is absolutely, it's not a football stadium. It's just absolutely anti-support. It's a horrible stadium. You're in a different postcode to watch a match. And it sounds a bit of a rant, but the 5 best stadiums in my book are the ones who oozes class, and the others ones I just don't like touristy football stadiums.
Okay, thank you very much there, Tom. Losing a point for going slightly over time there, but thank you very much. Maradona, any comments on that?
It's clear that Tom is very, very passionate about it, and easy. But I don't know many people apart from Tom and George who've been to as many grounds as they have in the last couple of years. So he's in a perfect position to comment. I'm trying to think.
Shall we throw over to George to see if you've got a particular ground that you want to nominate for being good or bad?
Well, I can't say that I enjoy going to Sellers Park purely because I've never been able to see for both games. So I may disagree with Tom on that. It is a nice sort of historic ground, but I can't see the pitch, so I wouldn't agree with that. I love that he said Goodison Park though. I went there and people slag it off, but I love the fact there's a wooden floor. You can generate atmosphere so easily. So yeah, I agree with most of Tom's points there. I do like sort of the modern stadiums, and Tottenham's is just breathtaking when you go there. It's quite incredible, the sort of agriculture architecture behind it and the surroundings. It's it's pretty special.
That would have been my 6th choice, but I'm a traditionalist. I just like the old style football stadiums, and these new ones. I mean, Brighton, you're just like miles away from anywhere, aren't you? And then they're just like trying to stack it out with a load of burger vans.
And the train back to Brighton. Oh, if anyone's ever gone to the train on Brighton, I waited an hour and 11 minutes to get on the train.
Well, the car park, the car park next to the Amex, it takes about an hour to get out of that as well. So it looks a nice ground, but the facilities are not great.
You've not lived until you've tried to get out of Norwich City Town Hall car park on a Wednesday night. So
I heard the old Wembley was a bit of an arse to get out of.
Even the new Wembley isn't it, Maradona?
It took me 4 or 5 hours to get home after the playoff final.
Although not as bad as those Huddersfield fans that we ended up blocking in.
Oh God, yeah.
And every time they get blocked, they probably said, "Remember those 2 Forest fans who blocked us in?" You like just blame you on every bit of traffic incident they've endured.
Oh no, it's okay. They could blame John Moss for it. So. And Baz, also that mention of like old school grounds with like wooden bits. I don't know about you, but I was thinking back to Sheffield Wednesday clacky seats.
Yes, definitely.
Back in the day,
I was thinking that. I also like an honourable mention for Huddersfield because the way it's cut into the side of the hill, which looks amazing.
Bloody freezing. Sorry, it's bloody freezing that ground is. Even if you go in the middle of the summer, you're like, honestly, it's just like the wind just comes down that hill. It's horrible. I don't like it. But
I'd like to share. I'd like to share a story about going to Huddersfield many years ago when the ground was still relatively new. So we were just a little bit late getting into the ground, and niece number one, I think, would have been about 7 or 8 years old at the time. Her first ever away match. As soon as we got in the ground, Ricky Shimaka scored, and she burst into tears because it was too much for her. And then at the end of the match, she was so excited about having been to a match that she completely didn't watch where she was going and walked into a lamppost. So, with apologies to niece number one, who's now very much a responsible grown-up adult, that's what sticks in my mind when I think about going to Huddersfield Town. So, and hopefully, this slight pause in proceedings has given Baz a chance to think about a topic for the 60-second shuffle. So, Baz, your minute starts now.
I want to talk about PSR because the last couple of years I've been shouting at YouTube, I've been shouting at the TV and shouting at the radio as people bang on again and again and again about our transfer record. But none of this is news to Forest fans because we achieved promotion with a squad that was like top half of the Championship at best. Half the first team had left 1 week after Wembley and the rest of the players just weren't good enough. I read somewhere that our entire squad was valued at £12 million. So spending £150 million in that first season just wasn't crazy. It was absolutely necessary. We had to build a whole new squad. And yeah, the recruitment was scattergun, but it was bound to be because that was the situation we were in. More importantly, if you look at the teams that have been promoted recently, Burnley spent £110 million and went straight back down. Ipswich has spent over £100 million and looks like they're in trouble. Southampton are even worse off. We spent £150 million, then another £100 million, and we've only just scraped by. So it looks to me like that 150 is like the minimum spend if you want to compete in the Premier League, which also means that every promoted side now needs to budget not just for their transfer spend, but also the inevitable points deduction that's going to come in their second season.
Okay, thank you, Baz. Once again, losing points for going over time. I'm nothing if I'm not a harsh taskmaster. Okay, so all I'm going to say is points to everyone, and we'll reveal the winners a little bit later on. So just before we finish, it's time to hear from you listeners. And I'm very delighted to announce that we have made a few changes to our social media. We are now on Blue Sky, Nottingham-Forest, and we've also changed our handles on Threads and Instagram. So we used to be at 1865 Forest Ramble, and now we're at Nottingham_Forest_1865. But we're still at Nottingham_Forest on Twitter, TikTok, and indeed YouTube. Now, speaking of Twitter or X, depending on what you want to call it, we put out some polls and we wanted to ask you the questions. So the first question to our listeners was, who's your NFFC player of the season so far? And we gave you the options of Ola Aina, Nikola Milenkovic, and Chris Wood. And by a resounding margin, 64%, people went for Nikola Milenkovic. Baz, you and I love a good commanding centre-half. Tell us why Milenkovic is player of the season.
It's not just that he's one of those centre-halves. Like when we were in the Championship, Scott McKenna used to do it where there's like real economy in how he does stuff. He just does the bare minimum to put the attacker off. But also that moment when he went up and celebrated in front of A-Block just made it as like he was like ice cold throughout the entire game. But then he showed that it really mattered to him, which I just loved.
George, any thoughts on the big Serb?
Yeah, I completely agree. There's a saying that attacks win games and defences win titles. Forest are probably not going to win a title, but I think the bedrock of what we've done this season has been based on him. He allows Murillo to no longer be our primary defender and to be his expansive, his aggressive self, knowing that Milenkovic is just behind him. If anything goes wrong, he'll sweep it out of play, he'll marshal it. And yeah, he's been the rock of everything that's been successful. I know I said Chris Wood should be up for the Ballon d'Or, but Milenkovic might deserve that nomination a little bit more.
Well, Woods is on 30% of the vote from our listeners. Tom, anything to add on our giant defender?
Well, I mentioned him on Friday 5. I think he's brought Murillo on because, like I said to Stephen, bear with me on this one, but last year, Murillo seemed to have to be everywhere, plugging the gaps, because obviously he didn't have 100% confidence with his defensive partner. But Milenkovic has gone in there, he's calmed everything down. We're more solid on set pieces and the actual consensus of us defending. And Murillo's just had to just concentrate on his own game. And obviously he's been playing really well this season. But so Milenkovic is, like I say, he's gone in there, just calmed everything down, and we've been better for it, and hence why we're fifth in the Premier League at the moment.
And Baz, if we want to go back a little while, then you could say that Milenkovic is like a world-class John Olafjelde.
Yeah, the Iceland cometh.
Yeah, just that thing of like, he doesn't dive in, does he? He doesn't dive in. He doesn't give away too many fouls. He just basically says to the defender, I'm here, you've got to get around me.
Mm.
And there's something to be said for that. Okay, next question was, how would you rate Nuno's performance as Forest manager this season? 6.7% said would rate him as 1 to 3, poor. I think we found the Derby fans. 4 to 6 got 11% of the vote. The majority of people, 63%, went for 7 to 9, rating him as good. And then 20% went 10 out of 10, outstanding. Now, so everyone in the room, put your hand up if you think Nuno has been 10 out of 10 outstanding. That is no one. So I'm assuming that we're all going to say 7 to 9 good. Maradona, are you going to say that?
I am. Sorry, I am going to say that. I think it's just the only blip.
Got a little bit overexcited there, didn't you?
Yeah, the only blip for me would be the Fulham game, and he blotted his copybook, as they used to say, in the olden days, with that selection and approach to that game. I did only, been a bit braver that day, and trusted the players to go out and win that game. I think it'd be a 10 out of 10 for me.
Oh, 10 out of 10. Well, you didn't put your hand up at the requisite time, so you lose points on that one.
If he'd done that, he'd be a 10 out of
10. Okay, George, you were looking excited for a second.
Yeah, that was my exact thinking. It is a 10 apart from that game, because I can't really figure out why he thought putting the two most immobile strikers on the pitch with no wingers and no creative midfielders was ever going to work. But apart from that, his setup, his substitutions have came on a lot. Last season, I was critical of them. You think to Brighton, Luton away, I think he cost us. But this season, probably because we've got a much better squad and because whatever he wants to bring on, we've got that at our disposal. But yeah, the way he sets us up perfectly complements playing against Premier League sides. We counter-attack with pace. He's given the players so much confidence. And, I think the pre-season that he's had has really shone through, and Forest have kicked on this season. So certainly, a very good season from Nuno, apart from that game against Fulham.
Baz, I'm going to come to you to play devil's advocate on that one, because in the match report, you said you could see why he chose the lineup he did to try and counter Fulham. And if it not been for a couple of penalty decisions, and we're not going to go into those, but it could have been a 0-0 or even a 1-0 to Forest, couldn't it?
I could see why he did it. I don't think it worked very well, but he was trying to stop Fulham playing. The problem with that is we were at home, so we should be worried about us rather than them, but us worrying about them. However, what I will say, Nuno has done incredibly well, and he talks about it all the time, which is getting the bond with the players. If you watch the TikToks between Ola Aina, Callum Hudson-Odoi and Anthony Elanga, you can see that all these players absolutely love working together, and you see it when they're dancing on the pitch at the end of the game and stuff like that. It's absolutely brilliant to see.
And Tom, so our very own Jamie, our newshound, he met Nuno in Birmingham Airport the other day. So although Nuno's got this reputation of being a little bit reserved and a little bit distant, he also does have that slightly warm, cuddly, and as it's this time of year, a slightly Santa type feel to him, doesn't he?
He does. And last year he kept saying, give me a pre-season, give me a pre-season. He's had a pre-season, and look at the results after pre-season, they've been pretty decent, haven't they? And and he's got a smile back on his face. Last year we didn't really see the smile. It was kind of like people were asking like silly questions, does he really want to be here and all of that jazz. But no, this season has been like an affectionate person, and he's just galvanized the whole squad. You see the squad are happy, the fans are happy, he's happy, and the results are a lot happier, aren't they? So a win-win so far.
And on that warm and cuddly front, Tom, does he get extra points for the way he was when he met Warriors FC?
It does. It is just like some like managers were like, "Oh no, I can't. I'm not doing that. I'm too busy." But he gave his time to Warriors FC, and it was just a lovely moment, wasn't it?
Do you like chips?
I love them. Ooh, I love them. With a lot of ketchup on it.
We'll get off the pitch. We're getting a lot of things right because obviously Vicky McClure, the Dementia Choir, and Forest giving them a room to rehearse and everything. We've still got the foundations of a lovely family orientated club, and hopefully that will continue for many years to come.
Yeah, lovely. Okay, and then the last question, the question I always ask in Twitter polls, and is what position do you think Forest will finish this season in the Premier League? So nobody, and I think this is the first time this has happened, nobody has selected relegation as an option.
The internet cut out in Derby.
Well, yeah. Well done. I saw you there with your pair of snips and the big cable. So then we've got top six, 2.4%. 7th to 12th, 78.2%, and 13th to 17th, 19.4%. And Maradona, I'm going to come to you to play devil's advocate on this. Give me reasons why Forest won't finish 7th to 12th.
Ooh, they won't finish. I think the only thing that can derail us really are injuries. If we lose Milenkovic for an extended period of time, I think we'll maybe see the form revert back to something similar to last season. Again, if Chris Woods becomes such an important player, if for some reason he goes off the boil, but I'm strangely optimistic. I think the lack of European football gives us a fresh week to prepare for most games. Except
we've got more players going out on international duty again, haven't we?
But that affects everybody. The European football ones, the ones that kills teams. You look at how Aston Villa have sort of reacted the last few weeks, and even Chelsea, their players are looking tired already. So I think that gives us a sneaky shout of finishing sort of 6th to 8th if everything goes our way.
That's uncharacteristically optimistic there from Maradona of the Midlands. I've known him for a long time, and it's very rare he sounds this excited. So, George, the table is really, really tight, though, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, Forest are joint third, but they're 1 point off being ninth or something like that. For us to do a poll and 124 people, nobody's saying relegation. I mean, if you'd done that at the start of the season, I'm sure you'd get at least maybe 20, 25% of people saying that. So for nobody to say that, it's just incredible that we're in this position. I don't really think we saw it coming, but we saw a platform of what could have happened. I think my only worry is adversity. I mean, we've had adversity once with the Fulham game and reacted very well, went away to Chelsea and then got 3 consecutive wins. But I think it's how we react to this Newcastle game, given that we've got, a run of form that we would say is not very favourable. Arsenal away, Man City away, Man United away. We've not really had that much luck there, although Arsenal last year we got close to getting something. But, if Forest are going to overcome adversity, I'm confident that they'll finish in that sort of between 7 and 13 area. And you definitely take that at the start of the season. They've got the sort of platform of an established Premier League side. We're beating the teams below us and we've competed in pretty much every game. So, yeah, there's no reason not to be confident about Forest this season. And it's very nice to be sort of looking around us rather than looking down.
Thank you. And Baz, as George mentioned, so Chelsea are in 3rd, Arsenal are in 4th, Forest are in 5th, and Brighton are in 6th, all on 19 points. And then you go down and you have to get to Man United in 13th, and they're on 15. So there's a whole bunch of clubs who are very much bunched around each other. But I'm just going to throw something out as you and I have been watching Forest for a long time, that whole thing about we often seem to do better against the teams who are historically above us than we do against the teams where you'd expect us to get a victory. So would you be more happy about the idea of Forest doing something playing Man United than, for example, Ipswich?
Well, I mean, part of it as well is that these three upcoming big games are away games as well. And you can see in the way we're set up, the counter-attacking and stuff like that, that probably plays into our hands a little bit. Arsenal have had a bit of a wobble. Man City have had a bit of a wobble. Man United are kind of an unknown because it's a new manager. So actually, those 3 games, I could see us getting a few points out of them, which is probably a terrible thing to say given it they're upcoming. But yeah, it is Ipswich at home and maybe Brentford. Those are the games coming up soon that I'm more worried about.
And Tom, just as Baz asked there, is Arsenal actually one where you could have a bit of a cheeky punt and just kind of say, you know what, Forest might actually do something against them?
Yeah, like I said, I don't fear anybody in this league, and the new guy what's gone in at Man U, I don't think he's going to get that much work done in this international break because obviously majority of their players
He didn't even want to join Man
not...
United yet, did he? He wanted to join next summer, and so he's going to have the same problem that Nuno had last season.
Yeah, so I wanted pre-season. Yeah. So unless the Man U players, which is the shit house as they are at the moment, if they might just like turn it on because they've got Ten Hag out the door, and we'll have to see in their next game whoever they've got. I can't remember who they've got now, but
Ipswich away.
Yeah. So in Ipswich way, I mean they've just got a result against Spurs, a really good one. So yeah,
the other thing with Man U is if he wants them to play a back 3, I read somewhere that only Harry Maguire's got any experience of playing in a back 3, so maybe they'll fall apart a bit.
Yeah, and about what 3 or 4 years ago, I did rate that Matthijs de Ligt, but he's gone to Juventus, he's gone to Bayern, and then he's gone to Man U, and he hasn't looked great, has he? So yeah, that's not gonna be an overnight fix. So I'm not going to say we're going to go to Old Trafford and get something, but I'm more confident in the Man U game than possibly the Arsenal and Man City game.
I'll have to remember to clip that up and then play it into the match report after that game, I think, win, lose or draw. Okay, so thank you very much, everyone. It's time to announce today's winner of the first Football Terrorist Show, and the winner gets to choose the Tricky Tree Tracks of Your Tears, which is basically a chance to choose a song that reminds you about a big moment for Forest, whether good or bad. It doesn't have to be something that's been a significant moment for the club, just something that feels significant in your own heart. And let's look at the points. So bringing up the rear, and unfortunately for you, it is Tom Newton on 15 points. In second place, it's George on 18 points. But this month's winner on 26 points is Baz.
Get in.
And with that, you get to choose your chosen song, your Tricky Tree Tracks of Your Tears. What's it going to be?
Right, so as you said, a song that's in my heart. I'm choosing this because, as well as the Forest connection, it's played a big part in one of my all-time favourite jokes and one of my all-time favourite sitcom scenes, and that's Gold by Spandau Ballet. It's a great chant for Danilo, but also Danilo hadn't heard the song before the chant, and now apparently he drives around blaring it out of his car, which is even better.
I'm going to say thank you very much to Tom, to George, and to Baz, and to Jeremy for their contributions to today's podcast. Remember that we have a range of shows coming up throughout the week, including our women's football podcast in midweek, the Friday 5 News Roundup, and we'll have a report on next weekend's Arsenal match. Until then, from me, Rich Ferraro, and him, the Maradona of the Midlands,
it's goodbye!
And come on, you Reds!
It's Rudolf Hess I feel sorry for, all those years in Spandau Ballet.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
reasons your career wants you to move to Ohio. So many amazing growth opportunities, high-paying jobs in technology, advanced manufacturing, engineering, life sciences, and more. You'll soar to new heights, just like the Wright brothers, John Glenn, even Neil Armstrong. Their careers all took off in Ohio, and yours can too. A job that can take you further, and a place you can't wait to come home to. Have it all in the heart of it all. Launch your search at callohiohome.com.